The program will begin shortly. As a courtesy, please silence your cell phones and other electronic devices. A headset is available at each seat for simultaneous interpretation of today's program. Please use the arrows on your handset to select your preferred language. Voy a recursos que están mencionados aquí, pero aparte del script. Ahora conmigo. Good afternoon. Welcome to the closing session hosted by the Secretary of War and Chairman of the America's Counter-Cartel Coalition, the Honorable Pete Hegseth. We thank you for traveling to be here with us as we continue this vital work. The America's Counter-Cartel Coalition is a testament to our partnership and the unwavering commitment to securing our hemisphere. At this time, I'd like to introduce the President of Panama, His Excellency José Raúl Mulino Quintero.
Muy buenas tardes otra vez.
Good afternoon again. Mr. Secretary of the United States, welcome to Panama. Mr. Secretary of Panama, Counselor, U.S. Ambassador in Panama, the U.S. on the Command Commander, honorable members of all the countries here present, and security systems and from the coalition. I hope that everybody in the meeting that have been being held here took a lot of advantage of it. That's the main effort that we're here for, and it shows us the work we have to do day by day to fight against drug trafficking and organized crime and related crimes. I want to open this event by one of the speeches that the first enemy that we have is drug trafficking and drug traffickers and the branches of organized crime that this brings. There's never going to be a sustainable peace if this enemy reaches and becomes bigger and stronger. It would disintegrate our societies. It's with that certainty that in March of this year, we have joined in all these free and democratic countries in the shield of the Americas. We joined this to give concrete answers to these criminal structures that threatened our base and our institutions and governments. In that occasion, the meeting we had with the Secretary of War, Hegseth, it was well established that the seeking the freedom would be unifying forces in this continent, something that was shared abroad, across the board, that we really haven't come to as we should have. Throughout the years, we come to learn a lot of valuable lessons that we cannot negotiate and cannot reach any type of agreement with traffickers. They have infiltrated our governments, justice systems, in NGOs and organizations within the government. They count them with their own finance. So they're able to hire lawyers, media, and any type of social justice, apparently defenders. But their finality actually is to serve these cartels, these narco traffickers and structures that are trying to become over-national cannot be fought against these countries with their coalition, because they are the ones that produce and consume these drugs as well. The only way that we could do that is going it together, because what we do before only would lead us to failure. Therefore, had been growing and growing and going to the same failure of each country. We have to have a functional type of freedom that we have to have with each country. This false patriotism that we have been doing is to hand over basically to the cartels the freedom that they think they seek, but not doing it in reality. This coalition actually is something good for us, is at no threat at all to sovereignty of each one of our countries and our nations. We're actually going to work jointly with the Colombian, Salvadorian, Dominican, and U.S. military in a positive way. What represents a clear threat to our sovereignty is actually drug traffickers, or TCOs. That's actually a cancer that has been extending throughout schools and everywhere in our society, bringing money to the pockets of all the countries and their citizens, has been harming our grandchildren, our kids, and everybody. These gangs that have been penetrating all the sectors of the society, fighting against territorial gangs and belongings that have been affecting each and every level of society. That's actually the real threat to the sovereignty of our societies. The influx of illicit money coming into these countries for human trafficking, illegal mining, and for these organizations that are doing money laundering, trafficking, and doing formal and informal businesses for these drug traffickers is very bad. We have a very strong point and a strong posture about this. We're integrating our own forces to combat the drug traffickers. We have the conviction that from 7 of 10 Panamanians agree with this mentality. All the countries that are here present today have their own particular thoughts and postures of how to handle this problem. But in Panama, we have the biggest proportion in relation to the land that we have. We have many coasts. But if we add the Atlantic and the Pacific coast in one straight line, it's the side of the east coast of the United States. With that, I can define quite a bit. And with that, I want to add we have two canals interoceanic here. One, the active canal, the Panama Canal, that allows, throughout wars and times of peace, a lot of traffic goes through. And our number one enemy of the canal is drug traffickers. The strategic position that we have is good for business, but it's also for criminal organizations. We're a neural strategic point so that anything that comes through here could achieve any in the world, can reach anywhere in the world. That could just look at the secondary thing within, but actually represents a big problem for our country. Because a lot of that drug that comes through also stays here and is utilized to pay for illegal services to these gangs for their cooperation. And that drug goes to the streets, is sold, and makes money, cash, to be able to sustain those gangs and their livelihood. And sometimes in an exaggerated way how these people live. This is a vicious circle that we're willing to break, cost what it may. And for that, we come with three fundamental pillars. Political will of this president right here in front of you. You have no doubt about it. The availability of our security forces with the Navy services, the National Police, and the Border Patrol. Men and women that sacrifices their lives, their time, and sweat working alongside by side to achieve this goal, and along with the United States to achieve the goal. We decided to unite ourselves, to be stronger, to be able to combat this enemy so we can return the peace to our citizens. In the societies that have violence, there's no real achievement as a society. The prosperity is tied with the tranquility of its people and its population. The investments can come when there's peace in the society. None of this is available if we're living with crime and with drugs in our country. We have a dichotomy right now. Or we have a drug traffickers, politicians, or we have a free nation. We are on the right side of the story. Prosperous nations have integrity, and that's what we have to strive for the integrity of our countries. We have to work together, respecting the sovereignty and our territories, but acting in unity and counting with the support. For a country like most of ours, alone we can't do everything, and alone we can't fight against TCOs and organized crime. These activities in 1 year have been mobilizing drugs, the equivalent over 200 yearly budget for security of Panama. In that sense, I would like to make a point that in the last 18 months, for the achievements that we have reached along agreements with the United States, this country has been able to seize $174 million to be able to increase the capacities and technologies to be able to fight the organized crimes. I have to mention again the ambassador of Panama present here for the United States, Kevin, has been very helpful so that these equipment and everything, the fast boats, the scanners, the communication systems, everything and any type of resources that have been available to us due to his help. We don't want to say that not just that alone has helped with the investment, but we had the hand-in-hand help of the men and women working here with us. I also want to mention the $3 million donation to clean up the Darien that has been very deeply contaminated for many people going through it, over 1 million people going through the Darien, that have unlawfully, with the support of drug trafficking organizations were going through. Through these roads, dirtying and contaminating and doing an ecological, irreparable damage to the Darien. They're going to take many years to recover. And we also have regions that are very far away, indigenous, that come away. These areas are very hard to access, and they have been also wanting to be able to reach help. We would like to give them help, but we also want to make sure that they don't get the temptations from these cartels, promising that we're going to have a good life by trying to bribe them and offering them money. It's also not just something good as socially, but also in the false solidarity, in the immediate help, in the extreme situations that they might reach, is where these TCOs try to influence and act. Wherever the state is not present, the drug trafficking is where they can put their flag. Here, I want to thank the president of all the high members, principals that are here today. I invite all of you to keep working jointly, sharing the same vision and adding forces to fight against this crime for our society altogether. I am fortunate to be here today as the president of Panama, and I hope that this meeting is going to be for all of us so we could check everything that we're going to do in the future and the actions. Our country is open for all of you always. This fight is all of ours, in favor of all our countries. I leave you in good hands. I congratulate you for this event and for trusting in Panama as a natural ally against a full front fight against crime. Thank you very much, and I wish you great success in this. Thank you.
Thank you, President Molino. We appreciate the President joining us today. He must now depart due to other commitments. Ladies and gentlemen, the United States Ambassador to Panama, Kevin Marino Cabrera.
Good afternoon. Buenas tardes. Before the Allied landing at Normandy, General Eisenhower gave his paratroopers a 4-word order: full victory, nothing else. I'll try to be nearly as brief. It'll be bilingual, so good luck to the translators. Secretary of War Pete Hegseth, Senator Moreno, and team, welcome to Panama. Or welcome back to Panama, in your case. And thank you to General Donovan, Southcom, and the Department of War for putting this forum together and for your commitment to a safer, stronger, and more prosperous Americas. Asimismo, reconozco al presidente José.
I also recognize President Panama president and his minister and all the ministers, chief of defense, and each member of the military forces here with us. These cartels do not recognize borders. For many years, they didn't counter or were met with resistance. All these other efforts led to more deaths, more violence, and that period has ended. I am very proud to lead these efforts on behalf of President Trump and this embassy here in Panama. During the last years, Panama has been converted in a leading country in the fight against drug trafficking with large seizures and working with our equipment and units. This is not a coincidence. These are results of shared work with concrete results. Coast patrols, reinforced borders with Senate Front, and a task force against money laundering, which is dismantling these criminal organizations, researching, persecuting them, and seizing their assets. Each dollar that we deny to the organized crime is as important as every kilo seized. Now we are operating through different organizations, FBI, DEA, Department of War, and Department of State. Our message to these cartels is clear. The Americas do not belong to the organized crime. It belongs to those nations that follow the law.
Of you and every one of your countries, dismantling the cartels together until they are eliminated. Thank you, and God bless.
Thank you, Ambassador. The United States Senator from Ohio, Bernie Moreno.
Muchísimas gracias a todos y antes que
Thank you, everyone. And before I start, my heart to the people in Colombia. We're praying for you and to support you. Thank you.
Because my secretary won't give me a ride back if I make him use a translator. So I want to say it's an honor to be here with you. Thank you to the secretary for inviting me, for the ambassador, for obviously General Donovan, for all the hard work that you do. This is a really critical gathering here in Panama. And I just want to say on a personal level, Ambassador Cabrera, you are doing an incredible job here. You are setting the bar higher and higher for ambassadors all over the world. So you're a great example to all the ones that we get to confirm as ambassadors. So you were first and early, and you're doing a great job. So thank you for that. But I want to speak to all of you, not just as a United States Senator, and not just as the first Latin American-born senator in U.S. history, knowing that if I screw this up, I'll be the last Latin American-born senator in American history. So I don't want to do that. But I want to let you know that, obviously my family left Colombia when I was a young boy, seeking the American dream. That means opportunity, safety, and a rule of law. And we found that. The United States gave me personally and my family every opportunity in the world to succeed beyond my wildest comprehension. And I could not have achieved that success anywhere else on earth. That personal journey shapes everything that I think about this fight that we're in right now. There is a reason, though, that the American dream that I just outlined does not exist the way it should in Latin America. And the reason for that is because we have narco-terrorists that have roamed free. They pillage, they corrupt, and they rob Latin Americans, your fellow citizens, my family members that still live in Colombia. They rob them of their God-given rights to live freely and securely. These cartels crush families, whether in the neighborhoods of Colombia, along the coast of Panama, and even infiltrate cities in Ohio with their poison. The entire hemisphere is subjected to their terror. Cartels have no borders, as we've heard from the previous speakers. They spread their poison, their corruption, and they destroy economic prosperity with total impunity. They recruit our young people, murder our citizens, corrupt our institutions, our politicians, and steal the future for the next generation. We have lived through too much murder, too much crime, and too much insecurity. And we have to leave here saying enough is enough. We can end this downward cycle of decay by offering an alternative to drug trafficking and other illicit activities. A permanent end to this tragedy starts with prosperity in mind. That is why economic security is national security, and they're inseparable. Prosperity is one of the strongest weapons we have against these criminal networks in the long run. When legitimate businesses thrive and young people see the real opportunity for a good life, the drug cartels lose their recruiting base and their hold on communities. That is why the United States of America must reward our closest allies, the nations gathered in this room, with favorable trade agreements that allow them to take full advantage of America's decoupling from China. As we reshore supply chains that cannot exist in the U.S., we must rely on trusted partners here in this hemisphere and provide that opportunity. Stronger economies and free nations mean weaker cartels. President Trump created the America's Counter Cartel Coalition for one clear purpose: a coordinated, determined response that wipes these terror groups from our hemisphere forever, where they're gone. They're not diminished, they're gone forever. Panama has already shown what's possible under President Molino, what focused leadership and real cooperation can achieve, and now we must scale that resolve across the hemisphere. Last Friday, we celebrated a new chapter in Colombia with the inauguration of President Abelardo de la Espriella. And that new chapter means a totally different dimension on how we're going to fight drug trafficking here. It provides, Colombia has unique geography, and that new direction must play a leading role. But no strategy succeeds without the production and transit corridors that feed this poison, and that's all these nations together. So thanks to the leadership of President Trump and Secretary Hegseth, the time is now. The tools are in our hands. The will is building dramatically, especially over the last 18 months, and the opportunity is finally here. Let's seize upon this moment. Let's act with clarity, with courage, and with unity. The families that all of you represent here in Latin America are counting on us to get the job done. Let's do it. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator. I would now like to invite the Commander of United States Southern Command, General Francis Donovan, to the podium. Sir, the floor is yours.
Mr. Secretary, we can see you're the chairman of the A3C. What I thought I'd do in your introduction is give you a quick after action from yesterday's activities. You had 19 fellow leaders that are here to address this problem set. And as we learned yesterday, yes, aligned with mods and shods, but we also had the opportunity to hear from ministers of security, home ministers, ministers of governance. And a lot of that was based on the advice we got from our hosts, the Senator and the Minister of Security here in Panama. When we met, actually part of Soft Week a couple months ago, we got advice from the Minister of Security and the Ambassador. Let's have the teams, before we meet here in Panama, one, let's link Panama and A3C, hard to do, but we did it, because we brought the right leaders together at the right time. But let's reach out ahead of time, ensure that we're including those elements of the governments that can really get at this problem set. And it might not always be mods and chods. There's other elements in societies that have law enforcement capabilities and police and other types of systems and processes we need to bring to bear. So that was the first expansion of the initial view. Next was, let's go out ahead of time and reach out to those then 17, then 18, and now 19 other partners, ask them about the threat environment, ask them about the challenges, also ask them about the opportunities. So, Mr. Chairman of the A3C, very good day yesterday. It was based on months of work leading up to yesterday. And the feedback we got from these leaders in this room have set the conditions for our path forward. I'll just cover the key takeaways, decisions we made yesterday, and how we're moving forward. The conclusions we came up with and agreed yesterday as a group, we share a common understanding of the threat. The threat is a regional system. Coalition campaigning creates systemic friction on these networks. Our strength is in our complementary capabilities. And persistence and unity will drive scale and will drive victory. The next steps: refine an action priority network campaign plans, designate roles and lead nations. And I will tell you, Mr. Secretary Hegseth, yesterday by the end of our session, we went out and made the initial pulse. Who wants to lead in different regions? Who wants to lead to go after these networks? We had volunteers right away, nations that wanted to step forward and take lead in sub-regions or after certain threats. Establish working groups with specific objectives and milestones. One of the takeaways there is we have to hold ourselves accountable. We just don't want to have meetings. We have folks in the field, our teammates, our junior service members in the field fighting right now. Are we doing our part as leaders? We have to hold ourselves accountable. Initiate coalition campaign assessments, demonstrate progress, and highlight challenges. That's our path towards November. Between now and November, we are going to write an A3C campaign plan. We will staff it with our teammates and our members here in the room, and we'll approve it by November. That's our goal. We don't have time to wait. Decisions made yesterday: validate the coalition commander's assessment, validated the coalition threat assessment, agreed on the coalition campaign priorities, endorsed the coalition operational design and actions, and agreed on the road to A3C governance and operational concept. We will meet again in November. We will offer Doral, Florida, the Southcom headquarters, where we will hold ourselves accountable to take these next steps. I'd like to close out before I introduce the Secretary. Minister Brego, thank you very much for your partnership, your insight, and your guidance in the offer to, again, host not only Panamax, but connect it to A3C and get us focused in this key location. And for my fellow leaders as part of the A3C, thank you for your efforts leading up to yesterday, your comments yesterday, your insight. We are ready to move forward. Southcom is ready to play our part of this process and of the A3C. So with that, I'd like to introduce the chairman of the A3C, the Honorable Secretary Hegseth.
Well, General, thank you very much for that update. And, today is the end of a conference forum here that was meant to be and has been operational and productive, focused on what we can do together. So I want to thank the President of Panama. I want to thank Minister Abrego. I want to thank all of our Panamanian partners for being such great hosts here, and for Panamax, which is ongoing for the first time in in 14 years live here in Panama. Thousands of troops right now from many of the nations represented here. And I want to thank every single country, sovereign, strong country, willing to step up and address this threat as a part of the America's Counter-Cartel Coalition. But before we begin, just a moment, as the Senator did, to offer my sympathy to the people of Colombia for Monday's devastating earthquake that I understand was even felt here in Panama. And the Department of War, with the State Department, is mobilizing critical life-saving aid to support the Colombian government's robust response to this tragic event, just as we did in Venezuela a few weeks ago. I also want to thank my team as well. Chief, Senator Moreno, thank you for representing not only the United States of America, but this hemisphere so effectively and being such a powerful voice in the Senate for this effort as well. I'm grateful to be here with ministers and chiefs of defense united in purpose and resolve as partners in the America's Counter-Cartel Coalition, or ACCC. Just a few months ago, we laid out a shared vision for a safe, secure Western Hemisphere where borders and laws are respected and narco-terrorists are brought to swift and absolute justice. And yesterday and today and going forward, we are gathered to take the next step in our shared fight against narco-terrorists, gang members, and drug and human traffickers. Designated terrorist organizations, the ISIS and Al-Qaeda of the Western Hemisphere, no different, and they should be treated as such. It's now nearly 1 year since the launch of Operation Southern Spear, the first time in history that the Department of War launched a sustained military campaign against U.S. designated terrorist organizations in our shared hemisphere. And it has been a resounding success thus far. We've seen record drops in movements of narco vessels across major maritime corridors inside our hemisphere, including, at a minimum, 65% reduction in the Western Caribbean, a 60% reduction in the Eastern Caribbean, and a nearly 50% reduction in the Eastern Pacific in the north and south of the Galapagos Islands. We have knocked the narco-terrorists in the maritime domain on their heels. We forced them to adjust their tactics, techniques, and procedures, their TTPs, and operate outside of their comfort zones. We are retaking the open seas and our maritime borders. This is a bad time to get in a drug boat in the Western Hemisphere. The results are historic. In the United States, fatal drug overdoses have dropped dramatically. Flows of fentanyl are way down. Crossings at our southwest border have dropped to 0. The murder rate in American cities is at modern all-time lows, historic drops in crime. Life-changing progress that benefits each and every citizen of the United States of America, and indeed, every citizen of your nations as well. Now, predictably, as we like to call them, the fake news media has tried to discredit and delegitimize Operation Southern Spear. These same voices said nothing when governments allowed an unprecedented border crisis and record drug overdoses and deaths. Yet now they deny and try to diminish our success, our shared success. The left-wing media wants us to return to the failed strategies of the past, when America neglected our own neighborhood and our own neighborhoods, even as we sent our best, in our case, American troops, to do nation building halfway across the world. Globalists in Washington looked the other way, while our friends and neighbors to our south were victimized by drugs, violence, mass migration, Marxism, and foreign exploitation. The Biden administration and the Democrats ignored the U.S. southern border, openly accepting mass illegal immigration and destroying many of our great American cities. An invasion, no doubt. Under decades of globalist neglect, more than 1 million Americans died from fentanyl, cocaine, and other drugs. That's more loss than the United States had suffered in any war in our 250-year history. This blatant neglect for our national security also destroyed your borders and your sovereignty and your immigration systems as well. That is why we're here today together. Now, to be fair, I understand you may be feeling, and your countries may be feeling, and your militaries may be feeling some whiplash. Because just 18 months ago, the previous U.S. administration under Joe Biden, especially the previous administration here at Southern Command, stood in front of you promoting priorities like gender issues, women, peace, and security, or climate change, or diversity, dudes in dresses. I've said this before, but the Department of War is done with that nonsense. Full stop. And I assume you and your countries are as well. Real threats, real capabilities, no more leftist make-believe or dress-up time. The hard-working, law-abiding people of our nations suffered together far too long. But now we are working together, we are building together, and we are training together. We are killing terrorists. And we're defeating the failed and toxic ideologies of radical socialism and communism. Now, speaking of socialism, make no doubt about it. The international left, along with their enabling left-wing media, is plotting to unlawfully assert international criminal court jurisdiction over U.S. and partner military personnel and operations. To be clear, there is no legitimate basis for the ICC's lawless power grab that they will entertain anywhere they can in the world. Our efforts in this effort are 100% lawful under the laws of armed conflict. It's striking that this so-called court and other globalist bodies undermine our efforts, but do nothing to hold real terrorists and real tyrants accountable. And that's why the ICC poses a threat to your national sovereignty, your constitutional mandates, and the national interests of your people, just as it does ours. Our nations retain our sovereignty and our ability to deploy our own warriors in our own defense. We will never relinquish our absolute right to defend ourselves from threats to our safeties and our citizens, of my country and of your countries. We answer only to our own citizens and our own constitutions, not unelected international bureaucrats. That's why I strongly encourage every ACCC member to leave the ICC and reject their attempts to rob your governments and your courts of your sovereignty. I know as a soldier, I swore an oath to the Constitution, not some fake and illegitimate international court. And in these efforts, we've already shown that deterrence works. Operation Southern Spear is a model that can be and should be followed across our hemisphere by each of you to degrade, dismantle, and destroy narco-terrorist networks. Under the leadership of General Donovan, the success of Operation Southern Spear will be transferred to the newly established Joint Task Force Western Hemisphere, the action arm of U.S. Southern Command, to continue the targeting and killing of narco-terrorists that threaten our shared backyard. I want to commend Ecuador for its regional leadership to become the first ACCC member to partner with the United States in combined kinetic operation against narco-terrorists in Ecuador. I also want to commend Honduras and Guatemala for inviting the United States to partake in combined operations against narco-terrorists in their countries. Your people are already safer and more free for your courage and your resolve, and we look forward to working with you in killing bad guys. Additionally, I want to thank Jamaica for working with the Department of War to create a new military partnership to cripple narco-terrorists that transit through the Caribbean. This partnership will forever change the security environment of the Caribbean. And finally, I'm also proud to announce that Colombia will join the ACCC becoming the 19th member. And through the newly inaugurated president, as our president likes to say, President El Tigre, Colombia has already requested that the Department of War join Colombia in its fight against narco-terrorism, authorizing joint military operations to destroy terrorists and terror networks. Thank you very much. Aggressive and concrete steps like these exemplify the types of active participation, operationally focused, we want to see from our partners that will make the ACCC a potent and lethal coalition. Yes, we have meetings. Yes, we will coordinate, but ultimately this is about the operations we can conduct together, jointly, to protect individual sovereignty and the entirety of the hemisphere. The Trump administration knows that a safer backyard means a safer home. You can't have prosperity without security. In fact, eventually economic security taking hold is the long-term solution, but you need physical security to enable that economic security. With you, with all of you, the United States will forge a safe, stable, and prosperous Western Hemisphere. We seek neither domination nor dependency. We only seek, and I know you feel this from Southcom and from the General, genuine partnership with your governments to achieve security, stability, and prosperity. 2 centuries ago, the Monroe Doctrine was America's first stand against foreign meddling and exploitation in our hemisphere. The United States declared to European colonial powers that we will regard any threat against the free nations of this hemisphere as a threat to the United States itself. Well, now, under President Trump's strong, clear, and visionary leadership, we follow the Trump corollary to the Monroe Doctrine. We will defend our hemisphere from external threats to national sovereignty, whether from narco-terrorism or foreign malign actors. And we will deny adversaries the ability to position forces or otherwise threaten capabilities in our hemisphere. And that's why the United States is particularly grateful for the strong leadership in Panama of President Jose Raul Molino, right here. It's my second time to Panama, and the strides that we have made together over the last year, I think, are exemplary of the type of partnership we look for in this hemisphere. President Molino has courageously rejected foreign malign coercion and boldly resisted international pressure tactics. Panama has set a strong example for rejecting threats to their sovereignty, threats to the Panama Canal, and instead advancing U.S. partnership on both. And with Panama and other countries, the United States will continue to lead the way. Under President Trump, the United States War Department seeks a historic generational investment in our military spending through a new $1.5 trillion budget. We have work to do with our Congress, but make no mistake, we will work as hard as humanly possible with Republicans and across the aisle if we can to deliver what is truly a necessary historic investment to ensure America remains the dominant military power on planet Earth. Thankfully, U.S. allies in NATO likewise have vastly increased their commitment to the common defense, and we believe that ACCC members must follow this example as well. The Department of War is willing and able to support all of you to enhance your military capabilities. But of course, we expect substantial investment in your own abilities as well, and for those to be increased on defense resources. If countries are serious about their defense, the Department of War will prioritize our efforts to enhance your capabilities and fight beside you on the battlefield. And to reiterate, not really necessary for this group, but around the globe, President Trump does not tolerate free riding. And we're not here for games. When we say we will dismantle the cartels, we mean it. And I know the nations of this coalition feel the exact same way on behalf of their citizens, and will take concrete steps, sometimes risky steps, courageous steps, in partnership, such as reaching status of forces agreements or access basing and overflight agreements. Our citizens and our nations deserve and expect real, concrete actions. We believe there's no time to waste and no better time than right now. And we will be with you. I pledge to you, from the White House to the Pentagon, shoulder to shoulder, every step of the way. Because together, we are the offspring of Western civilization. Our nations are and will always be united by heritage, history, and geography in this new world. We share the same interests and the same civilizational soul. And so we all face the same essential test: whether our nations will remain Western nations, remain prosperous nations, remain Christian nations under God, remain proud of our shared heritage with strong borders and prosperous people, ruled not by violence and chaos, but by law and order. Or, instead, whether we are permanently torn apart by something else: narco-terrorists, violence, radical Marxism, and globalist exploitation, social denigration, and so-called social justice. We've had great collaboration in recent months, and I want to thank each and every one of you for supporting our ability to find, fix, and finish narco-terrorist targets. Ultimately, that is what it is going to require: finding, fixing, and finishing narco-terrorists, either unilaterally, or bilaterally, by, with, and through, and together, finding, fixing, and finishing narco-terrorists. And we'll finish the job. Which is why I'm proud to announce the new motto of the ACCC. Maybe formal, maybe informal, I haven't decided yet. The new motto of the ACCC is: we do bad things to bad people. That's the mentality I want to have inside this room. Now, we're good people that do good things, but ultimately we're dealing with bad people that have done a lot of bad things to a lot of good people for a very long time. And they're about to meet a new sheriff in town in the ACCC. And we mean business. Narco-terrorists, DTOs, drug traffickers are hereby on notice. Under President Trump, we will make the Americas great again. The safety and prosperity of one will strengthen the safety and prosperity of all. God bless you, and God bless the great citizens of your countries. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Secretary Hegseth. We will now transition to a family photo on the far side of the room. On behalf of the Office of the Secretary of War, we thank you for your participation in this session of the America's Counter Cartel Coalition.